Well, from the outside, it may well look Caracas. But is there method to the madness? I've never not enjoyed seeing a commie tyrant gagged, bagged and perped walk through New York in cuffs, ready to face a courtroom for their crimes. A man who turned one of the richest and most beautiful countries in the world into a humanitarian basket case that saw his people eating cats. But obviously Donald Trump's shock and awe swoop on Venezuela's despotic narco boss Nicolas Maduro has upset the global apple cart again. As we know by now, Trump is a all-or-nothing kind of guy. He only plays at the highest stakes. Everything is do or die. I've lost count of the number of times we've been told that Trump's gravity-defying gambles would be the final straw, the end of him. Yet now he's gone and done it. He's pulled off one of the most audacious geopolitical stunts of the modern era. That lightning raid in the dead of night, not a single American casualty. Uncle Sam's wars used to last for years, with thousands of Americans dead. Trump's wars, as we also saw last year in Iran, seem to be over in hours, with everyone safe home, back in time for tea and medals. But don't get me wrong, it was not without risk. In a year of crunch midterm elections and Trump's enemies baying for his blood, circling everywhere, if this mission has been botched, like so many American imperial adventures into the southern continent before it, it would have made for a very, very bleak 2026 for the White House. But it wasn't botched. It was a stunning success, bar the shouting. However, very obvious questions still remain. Not least, what happens next in America's newly reasserted backyard? Despite the neat legal charges that see the vanquished Maduro in a Big Apple dock for drug and terror charges, let's not pretend this was about anything other than power and oil. Trump didn't just remove Maduro. He drew a thick red line around that Western Hemisphere and said, this is ours again. Maduro wasn't just a tin pot tyrant, though he was. He was a destabilising force who exported chaos, refugees, narcotics, political subversion across the continent. Millions fled from his socialist dystopia. He flooded neighbouring countries, the United States included, with human misery. And let's not pretend he was acting alone. Russia, China, Iran, Cuba, they all had skin in the game. Venezuela was a strategic beachhead, a hostile outpost of anti-Americanism planted right on Washington's doorstep. By removing Maduro, Trump has severed a tentacle. This is the Trump amendment to the Monroe Doctrine, the Donroe Doctrine. Keep hostile powers out of the Americas by force, if necessary. Call it hemispheric hygiene, if you will. And the BBC and the Emily Thornberrys of the world can scoff. And defenders of the old order can howl about international law and post-war norms and the rules-based order. But here's their uncomfortable truth. That world is gone. A remarkable revelation of the last few days is just how many supposedly clever people genuinely believe that our world order is sustained by the moral high ground, by vibes, by nice words, rather than at the barrel of a gun. And America is just about still the deadliest gunslinger in town. Now, the left is screaming, it's illegal. Trump didn't ask for permission. Congress didn't get a vote. The UN wasn't consulted. That this might give baddies cover to do bad things, like they haven't already invaded Ukraine. But what are they going to do about it? Phone the world police? This is the logic of a new world order, one defined by spheres of influence rather than these universal rules. But providing some stability can be brought to Venezuela, I think there could be welcome repercussions for other global issues still on the to-do list. With Trump's negotiations with Vladimir Putin over Ukraine appearing to tiptoe towards a conclusion, seizing control of massive crude oil reserves can help keep that critical price of oil low. And that is the West's biggest bargaining chip to bring the Kremlin to the table. Low oil prices choke the Russian war economy, and it removes the power of Gulf states to hold that very negotiation strategy hostage by suddenly turning off the taps and driving the price of oil back up to the delight of one man, Putin. Venezuela has the largest proven oil reserves on Earth, some 303 billion barrels, $17 trillion worth of oil at today's prices. Now, Trump, he claims, with a pliant regime brought to heel with the threat of more fireworks, that oil reserve is now in the control via US companies of the White House. That is a remarkable rebalancing of the power dynamics around the world, and one you have to admit is pivoted now towards the good guys. Now, history will show us that such simple plans rarely go entirely to plan, with the hard yards of truly liberating Venezuela still to come, especially if the president starts getting a taste for his gunboat diplomacy. Neighbours like Cuba should be rightly nervous. No one should shed a tear when that monstrous experiment in human suffering finally goes to the wall. But when Trump makes threats towards friends in his backyard, like Greenland, that's where I think things get a little more dicey. The increasingly impressive Secretary of State Marco Rubio said Saturday night's fireworks in Caracas should prove Donald Trump is a man of his word. It certainly moved the dial on what anyone thought he could possibly get away with, which is why, when he reiterates that Greenland should be annexed, we have to suspend disbelief that Donald Trump is joking. But let's be very clear. Greenland is not Venezuela. Owners Denmark, despite their incredibly high taxes, massive welfare spending, and frankly a grim experiment with sterilising Greenlanders in the late 1960s, they're not a bunch of communists. This is not Venezuela. They're members of NATO. They spilled blood with America in the war of terror at an incredibly high price for such a small country. And a strike on their territory would be an absurd overreach, and one that would be rightly met with revulsion across the West. The world is no doubt a better place without Maduro in power. It would be a better place without Cuba run by communists. Millions of South Americans, both still at home or having been forced to flee to America or elsewhere, will be forever grateful for what Donald Trump did in the last few days. This development also gives the president the whip hand, finally, over Russia, just at the right time. So take the win, Mr. President, as they say. Greenland should not be on the table.